It's the Oregonian Sports Podcast. I'm Bill Oram, joined as always by Gonzaga alum Brenna C. Greene. Brenna, it is the most wonderful time of year. I think we talked about this last year. I believe that our podcast was that this is the best time of the sports calendar. Yes. We broke that down, but it was a pretty unanimous decision that March Madness, college basketball's postseason is as good as it gets. Last year we had an Elite Eight run in the state from the Oregon State women. This year the Oregon State women are back in it. The Oregon men are in it, and the Oregon women are back in the tournament for the first time in several years under Kelly Graves, with that program trending upward once again. So, Brenna, welcome to March.
I mean, I don't know what to say. It's the best. And it's become even better because the women's tournament has become so much bigger over the last few years. So you have like double your fun, like both are just so much fun. So, yeah, I was down in Eugene with the Oregon men. They, unlike some other teams, didn't really have to deal with any surprises. They got the exact seed they thought they were going to get, and they got the exact place they thought they were going to get in Seattle. Yeah. So things went pretty according to plan for them. For some other teams, Louisville, it didn't go according to plan, I would say. But anyways,
did you see the West Virginia governor is trying to sue the NCAA over the Mountaineers not getting into the tournament and not getting into the field?
I did. Welcome to West Virginia.
What would Jerry West say is what I wonder. West Virginia University, the alma mater of Jerry West, Rod Thorne, and my father, Ed Oram, all contemporaries.
Wow, I had no idea. Okay.
1960 at West Virginia University was a great time to be alive. Morgantown.
Yeehaw, baby. I don't really think that's what they say there, but
no, it's more like what do miners say?
Yeah,
hand me that pickaxe.
We nailed it. Yeah, no, I have seen that. I mean, I would like to say it's ridiculous that West Virginia isn't in the field, especially since it seems like the tournament committee tried to blame it on somebody who has not been available for that team since December.
And then what was was it South Alabama that got invited to the NIT and then got the rug pulled out from underneath it?
Yeah.
Oh, what a disaster.
That's exactly what happened there.
Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry. I've taken us off the rails, but you were in Eugene with the Oregon men. I was in Corvallis with the Oregon State women, and let me tell you, were they excited? There was a lot of the most palpable tension in the room, and they had a lot of fans there and everything too, was when LSU was announced as the 3 seed in the Baton Rouge and hosting obviously as a 3 seed. And there was I think everyone in that room was sort of holding their breath in anticipation of Oregon State getting sent to Baton Rouge to play the Tigers. And that did not happen. So Oregon State is going to Chapel Hill to play North Carolina. Huge cheers for that matchup and for that opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, good for them. I wish I could have somehow made both, but that's the psychotic reporter in me, and that was unfortunately timing wise not going to happen. But
did you catch up with the Oregon women afterward?
No,
when
we
they
left.
went in? Okay.
We left. I understand why people would be like, "Why didn't you just stay?" But first of all, I worked 56 hours last week at the state tournament, so Brenna would like to get home. And secondly, we actually didn't go to the press conference for the Oregon men because we had a live show. We're a CBS station, so we had a live half-hour show out of Selection Sunday. So I did a live interview with Jackson Shellstad down there. And once we wrapped that up, they were already in the press conference, and that wouldn't have made any sense for us to walk in the middle of that. So we went there, we did our interview with Jackson, and then we got in the car and came back to PDX. So no, I actually did not attend either press conference. So there you go.
What do you think? Let's start with the Oregon men. What do you think of their matchup with with 12th seeded Liberty, my old friends, the Liberty Flames. Hello, Liberty fans. Welcome back to the Oregonian. Nice to see you again. We had so much fun together before the Fiesta Bowl, me and the Liberty Flame faithful. Excited to see them again in Seattle. It's been a while since the Fiesta Bowl. So, my personal affection for Liberty aside, Brenna, what do you make of this matchup with the champions out of Conference USA?
I mean, literally every single thing I have listened to, read, anything has been like, Oregon should handle this and not have any problems with this Liberty team. So that's kind of my vibe. I'm not really worried about the 5-12 upset here. Famous last words. However, exposed. I will say that I feel like the 5-12 matchup has become so hyped that it almost isn't as like of a sensation as what it used to be, because teams know, being that 5 seed now, that they have to come in and take things seriously. I do think it's kind of funny that the roles are reversed. Last year, Oregon a 12 seed, and now they're a 5 seed. Sure. That's funny.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about that until Jackson Shelstad said that in our interview, and I was like, oh, yeah. That makes sense. Hadn't thought about that. But yeah, I'm not super concerned about this Liberty team. Apparently they're a good 3-point shooting team, but that can be really hard to rely on, especially in a tournament game where you're in a completely different setting than anything else you've been in. And, you're on the complete opposite coast from where you're supposed to be. And yeah, it's just, if you're putting a lot of your eggs in that 3-point shooting basket, that's going to be that's not the world's most winning of formulas. Have we seen it win before? Yeah. Hi, Oakland. But it's just not something that that translates all the time, especially in the tournament when you are in a completely new setting, a completely new place. The baskets in a place like Climate Pledge are going to look a lot different than a lot of other college arenas, especially the college arenas that they've been playing in. So there's a lot more depth, that sort of thing. So I don't think that Liberty has much of an answer for one Nate Biddle, which most people haven't had an answer for recently. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Oregon's strength is on the inside and Liberty's strength is on the perimeter, and granted, I'm not going to pretend like I've watched a lot of Liberty basketball this year, but despite my affection for Liberty, but they're, obviously, numbers don't lie over the course of a 30 plus game season. This is a team that, shot 39% from 3 as a team, 6th in the NCAA from outside. If they have a chance, they're going to have to knock down a lot of threes, and that's a boom or bust way to live in college basketball. Can they win this game? No question. But if Oregon is able to assert its size and get Nate Biddle going against, a team that doesn't have a lot of strength on the inside, then Oregon should be able to handle this, this upset minded. How's that for like a term you only really hear in March? Upset minded Liberty team.
Yeah. Yeah.
But listen, I've said this all along too, and I feel this way now about the Oregon State women, although I think the Oregon State women just have too high of a hill to climb as a 14 seed. But the Oregon men have been tested, and I think this is a tournament ready team. They, have won all sorts of different games. They've won games where they've had to come back from, big deficits in the final, 8 minutes. They've won on game winners. They've handled their business. And I think that this team has enough weapons to, potentially make a run to even, get beyond Arizona in the second round if Arizona's there, as we would assume. Because they have Nate Biddle on the inside, Jackson Shelstad is Mr. Clutch, talking about Jerry West again, for Oregon, and they have just the weapons around him to really compete. That doesn't mean they couldn't get upset in the first round, but they also could make a run to Newark.
Yeah.
For the Sweet 16. I'm not thinking Final Four here.
Yeah,
but you never know.
You never know, but I would be pretty That would be pretty stunned. This feels like a team that, getting to the second weekend would be a real accomplishment for them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the case for 80% of teams in the tournament.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not your Zags, though. Getting to the second weekend is old hat.
Old hat. Watch out.
They got their work cut out. They got their work cut out for them this time.
Alas.
Brenna has feelings.
Alas. I'm gonna let it go. We'll see. I mean, I would be pretty stunned if the Sweet 16 streak continues. I would be pretty stunned. But boy, would I be happy. But I would be pretty stunned. So,
yeah. Yep. I understand that sentiment.
Yeah.
What? Anything else on the NCAA tournament on these matchups, these teams? I mean, the Oregon women, obviously. I mean, we should probably touch on the fact that Kelly Graves, despite lots of noise around his program over the last couple of years, there questions about whether he was going to stick it out in this era of college basketball, if he was, if he had the stomach for it, all this stuff that he and I ended up talking about a lot this fall. Has been validated. I mean, it's sort of been rebuked, right? Like it's validated sort of his past success and his approach to, obviously Oregon did great in the transfer portal. And I think Kelly's done a good job of stabilizing that program. Mm-hmm. Had a strong year, spent some time in the top 25, get back to the tournament and continue to build your program that way. Do I see Oregon making a run? Like, probably not, but this is a team that it's easier to do in the transfer portal age, obviously, but like a pretty impressive turnaround for Kelly Graves from a team that, essentially had to more or less had to start over from last year and ended last year on the 13 game losing streak. I mean, tons of credit to Kelly and his staff for just kind of staying the course and getting back to this place that they expect to be every year.
Yeah, I just think that this is a team that finished in their last 9 games. They went 3-6, and I understand you've got teams like Maryland in there, and obviously UCLA, but you also lose to Nebraska and you lose to UW, and it's just like, okay, so I don't really have high expectations for this squad. It's kind of what I wrote about the Oregon State women today. It almost applies to Oregon, and it's different. Like the Oregon State women, like early on, looked like they had no business even thinking about playing beyond beyond the regular season. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Oregon women looked really good early on. They had a huge signature win against Baylor at home, but there are teams and programs for whom the victory and the achievement is making the NCAA tournament, and then there are the teams and programs who anything short of a Final Four is a disappointment. And like having the awareness to recognize kind of who is where, right? Yeah. Like for Oregon getting back to the NCAA tournament, big achievement for Kelly Graves and his team. For Oregon State, going from 1-5 and losing by 35 to Minnesota and 25 to UP, and being able to win the WCC tournament and earn a 14 seed and get back to the NCAA tournament when they were left for dead, not just by the Pac-12, but by 8 of their best players last year. Enormous achievement. And what was interesting talking to Scott Ruick, and I think this stuff, obviously we're kind of a prisoner of the moment because it's like, Scott Ruick saying that this is as gratifying as anything he's done as a coach. Well, you've been to Final Fours. You won at Tennessee. You're a Final Four. Last year, you took a great team to the Elite Eight. But success is relative. And I think that it's fair to say that, that what this team has done is as impressive as anything any of those other Oregon State teams have done. It doesn't mean that it's as good. Getting to the NCAA tournament and winning the WCC tournament isn't as great of a feat as reaching a Final Four or being the first team to win an NCAA tournament game at Tennessee like they were a number of years ago. But relative to where this team was and where anybody thought they would be, to exceed expectations to this point and get into the field is huge. And I think, for the people who were part of last year's team and stuck around, the handful of players that are there, AJ Marat, Sela Heidi, Kennedy Schuler, that is, extremely gratifying. Yeah. Because I think because this is harder. Like it is harder. I definitely think the accomplishment for Oregon State is much larger than the accomplishment for Oregon of getting to the NCAA tournament. I mean, Oregon has Deja Kelly on their team.
Yeah.
Deja Kelly is an incredible player.
Yep.
Like, obviously, you have to have other players other than Deja Kelly.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you have...
It gives you a tremendous, like, starting point.
You have a... one of the things we talk about with the Blazers all the time is there a star on this team? And, we've come to the decision that no, there isn't. And Deja is definitely a star in the college basketball landscape. So, having Deja on your team is a huge deal. And you should. Once you get Deja, you should be going back to the tournament. So it's disappointing to me that this team has kind of finished out the way that this season, the way they have.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like, how 3-6?
Yeah.
Like, that's no bueno. Okay. So, I definitely would give the edge to Vandy, with how Oregon has ended this season. And,
sure.
Yes, they made it, but they made it by the hair of their chinny chin chin. They were right there on having to go to the first four. Yeah. So, I do kind of find the Oregon women right now to be disappointing, to be completely frank with you. They are two teams on completely opposite trajectories, Oregon and Oregon State. The Oregon women limped into the postseason. The Oregon State women roared into the postseason. Yeah. So these are two teams that are in different spots right now. And quite frankly,
but they might be in the same place after the weekend.
Potentially.
After the first games, they might be in the same place.
You mean like if they won out that weekend and both went to Birmingham?
Well, I did not mean that, but I meant they'd be in the same place in terms of being out of the tournament after their first games. But sure, yes. Also, I was
taking place literally. So
the Willamette Valley, Brenna.
Yes.
The broader Willamette Valley.
Yes. I was like, wow, that would be truly insane if that were to happen. So yeah, just two teams that have different levels of confidence, I would say, coming into the tournament right now. One is on fire, the other one is that's not the case. So that's been disappointing to me to see how the Oregon women have kind of finished out this season, to be completely frank with you. So
I think that's fair. I just think also there's something to be said for moving in the right direction after the last couple of years. It was pretty grim. And so, yes, the season obviously did not maintain the momentum that it had early on. And that is, but I think that Kelly Graves would tell you that it is a success that they're being judged in the way that you're talking about. Like that, hey, it's disappointing because getting into the tournament, losing 6 of your last 9, was that you are in a better place if you're being judged for that than you were previously. So I don't know. Maybe that's me just being Mr. Positive, sunny side up Bill.
Look at you. You've really turned
over a new leaf,
leaf.
Brenna. Listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm still riding a high from the national anthem last week at the Blazers game when Natalie Gilbert came back and sang the national anthem, which we talked about ad nauseum on this podcast, but it has completely kept me on this positivity upswing, like Mr. Positive.
Wow, I need whatever you're drinking, man.
The glass isn't half full, it's overflowing.
Oh, haha. I'm so happy for you.
You were at the state tournament last week. There were some surprises and some real significant milestones and achievements. You want to talk about them?
Yeah, I mean, really, it was an interesting state tournament because until the championships, none of the games were like really that competitive when you looked at the score. There may have been ones where it was like, oh, it was a 6-point game, but really that team kind of had it under control the whole time, sort of thing. But it was still like a super fun state tournament. And man, I guess we got to talk about Barlow first. What that team was able to do with the amount of pressure that was on those kids. And you have a Jesuit team coming in that, quite frankly, just doesn't have that pressure because nobody even thought they were going to be there. Yeah. Nobody thought they were going to survive Central. And then they just do what they, had a, God, what was it? 23-0 run, 23-2 run, something like that. They had a crazy run. So Jesuit's playing with house money, which is not normal. Not normal for a Jesuit school, it feels like, but Jesuit's kind of playing with house money. Barlow has the whole community there. Wow, if you're listening to this podcast right now, you just missed out on some really fun things going on in the background of Bill's situation. The old school Oregonian mailbox he has behind him that is metal just fell down onto his head.
It was my shoulder, really. So in case you're worried about my skull, it was my shoulder, but it does hurt. Thank you, Brenna.
You're so welcome.
But we're back.
We're back. I didn't get to see a full on view of it because at the same point in time, my cat decided it was time to join the podcast. So I couldn't. I just looked up and the box was on you. What those kids were able to do with the entire area's pressure on them, I think, is incredibly impressive. Like,
it's hard to win as the favorite.
It's hard to win as the favorite, but I think it's even harder to win when you have so many hopes and dreams riding on you. I mean, it had been last time Barlow was in the state championship game was 1996. It was the only other time Tom had gone. Tom Johnson, their head coach, had gone. And, he 39 years at Barlow, 42 years overall coaching, and one of the class acts of Oregon coaching for sure. There were signs in the crowd that said, "Do it for TJ." Never had won a state championship before. And that's truly that's a lot of pressure to put on a 18-year-old kid. And those kids came out and they were ready. I was especially impressed at the beginning of the game with because 4 of the 5 starters are seniors, but their point guard is a sophomore. And he was the one that wasn't afraid to start the game. He really kept them in it to start that game. He had 7 points to start the game. So I thought that was particularly impressive. And maybe youth is bliss in that situation, because I'm sure the other kids were feeling it.
I think that generally speaking, youth is bliss. As somebody who is getting up there in years, I think youth is bliss is a universal truth.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you for confirming my thoughts. It was just a really fun thing to be at. I do have one bone to pick. Okay.
Pick that bone.
Multiple people have said that this is Tom Johnson's last game. It is not. He has not said that at all. In fact, I asked him on the broadcast, which I posted on various social media outlets after the game. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you what you like. Are you going to be back next year? He said, "I'm not sure yet. I can tell you this. I'm really excited about the group of kids we have coming up." So I'm getting a little annoyed with the amount of people who are saying things like this was his final game when it's not, or at least he hasn't said that yet.
Yeah, it may not be.
Yeah. And if I were to bet right now, I think he's going to come back. So
defend that ship.
Yeah, I think that he just loves the game of basketball and he loves Barlow so much. It courses through him. He said to me, when I got to Barlow, I felt like this was a destination location for me. This is somewhere I was going to spend the rest of my life coaching, which, that's good for you, man. So I don't understand. I mean, I understand it. I know exactly what's going on. Everybody wants to write the fairy tale for the guy riding off into the sunset. Everyone wants this picture perfect cookie cutter ending, and that's just not stop trying to write his story for him.
I don't know, Brenna. You know what they say? Bar low, sell high.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot before. Thank you, Bill. So yeah, I just don't. I understand the human desire to like have this picture perfect fairy tale story, but hi, you need to listen to the person who's actually like writing the story himself. It's not you, it's him. So, yeah, but overall, just an incredible game to be at. I don't know if you watched it all or not. I would imagine you probably had some little ones to look after, but
I kept an eye on it.
Yeah. And then that girls' game was something else. I mean,
it's unbelievable. Like, I mean, and a testament to like the quality of girls basketball in the state that, you know, that Clackamas team with that much talent and that many college players, to say nothing of having, you know, Jazzy Davidson, only got one state championship out of those 4 years. Like, yeah. I mean, that has been such a loaded Clackamas team. And I don't mean that as a ding on Clackamas, by the way.
No.
And that's not a criticism of them. I mean, that was a tremendous team with huge amounts of success. But I do think it's a credit to the quality of play in the state that, you know, that there has been a diversity among state champions over these 4 years.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, I mean, quite frankly, do I think that game goes differently if Jazzy doesn't turn her ankle? Yeah, I do. Like, I do. And that's not a knock on anybody. Jazzy's the number 3 player in the state. I mean, I
agree.
Or not, sorry, in the country. You know, I don't know off the top of my head how many points she scored after she turned her ankle, but I don't know if she did. If she did score, it was very minimal. You know, she just couldn't move in the same way. And that's not her fault. But, you know, that's a team that understandably, like, that is their leader. And once you lose kind of the head of the snake, they really struggle.
Follow.
Yeah. Yeah. So
the tail can't lead.
Correct. So, yeah, it was in that sense unfortunate to me that it was like, man, we didn't get like a healthy Jazzy to end out that game. And Clackamas was dominating before she got hurt.
Yeah.
And yeah, Tualatin had made a bit of a run before she got hurt, but I mean, Clackamas had that game in hand. So, you know, kudos to Tualatin for taking advantage of the situation that was in front of them. And I mean, rattling off a 15-0 run.
Not easy to do.
Amazing. I mean, Love has solidified herself as the next greatest thing in this state. All 5'5" of her. You know, I went and talked to Scoot Henderson during the broadcast really briefly. And I said, you know, did you know about Jazzy coming into this? And he's like, no, I didn't. And he was like, but I'm hip to it now. And then he goes, but you know what? That number 1 on Tualatin, that girl's special. He was like, I love how she plays. I have a sister her size. She plays so confident. I love it. That was completely unprompted from Scoot. And, you know, there's a lot of...
I mean, how great was it to see Scoot there rolling through and sitting courtside? Like, I thought that was awesome. That. Like, way to connect with the community, Scoot. Like, I mean, I think, you know, there's been so much, you know, obviously Damian Lillard is the most beloved figure in the state still. And, you know, when we talk about the Blazers having a star, you know, that isn't just being, you know, the best player. Like, it's also, you know, being the player that fans feel the most connected to and who they feel is most connected to them. And so by being visible in the community and at things like the 6A state championship is an awesome way to engage with the community, shows that he's invested in where he's you know, he's growing where he's planted.
Yep.
And shout out to Scoot for that, because I thought that was pretty rad.
Yeah, him and Pooh were there. Yep. You know, and I thought that, you know, in particular, him showing up for the girls' game was really cool. You know, I mean, I think the reason why he showed up for the girls' game and not the boys' game is quite frankly due to the fact that the girls' game is at 4:30 and the boys' game is at 8:45.
Yep.
If I were the I understand they want to clear the gym. I get that. But if I were the OSAA, you got to move that timing up. it's brutal.
Yeah.
For everyone. It's brutal for everyone. Like, no game should ever be starting at 8:45 at night.
Nope.
So, yeah. There's my thoughts on the day. But anyways, you're missing out on people like Scoot Henderson showing up to both your games.
Mm-hmm. He's in the gym.
That's a
Don't
big.
let him leave.
That's a big. Yeah, exactly. That's a big feather in your cap. So, yeah, I think that it's a. I just, yeah, it definitely felt like that game at the very least felt like a passing of the torch. It was like, all right, this era of Oregon girls basketball is over and the new era is here, and the new era is Tualatin, baby. And by the way, they had 3 freshmen on their team, 2 of which are starting right now, that are going to have significant contributions. And a lot of the other girls on their team are younger. There aren't that many seniors on that roster. So this is a team that is going to be around for a while and be a force to be reckoned with. And I'm really excited to kind of watch Love grow and hopefully grow physically as well. I hope that she gets to at least 5'7" like me. Keep on growing, girlfriend. So yeah, just it was a special day to be a part of, and it felt like the culmination of an era on the boys' side and the passing of the torch on the girls' side. So just a really cool kind of like both situations kind of button themselves up in a nice way, I guess you could say.
That's beautiful, Brenna.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Are we going to go to the top of the Space Needle together? Like, and do a pod, do like a quick, like we could do like a quick video pod from the top of the Space Needle, like live from Seattle. Baby, I hear the blues are calling, tossed salads and scrambled eggs. Oh my.
I'm not going to have time. So people, all right, people who are listening to this.
Thank you for indulging my bit, Brenna. We don't need to actually like go through your daily schedule. It's just it's zippy. It's a bit. We just.
Yeah, well, I'm too stressed out about my daily schedule right now. So, sorry about that. But so people who don't know, like, I'm going to Seattle to cover the NCAA tournament. However, I'm not just covering Oregon. I'm covering for 5 other Next Star stations at the same time. I have 6 teams I have to worry about up there. That's a lot. And also having to do local coverage. So, yeah. I think everybody thinks like, oh, covering the NCAA tournament is like so much fun and all this sort of stuff. It's a lot of work. Like, so it's a lot of work.
It's not a lot of catch the salmon at Pike Place?
I don't think I'm going to indulge myself in that. No. Yeah.
It'd be great. It'd be great for think about all the Next Star stations having footage of you catching a fish in the air.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what all their viewers want. I'm sure what all their viewers want.
The thing I'm concerned about is that the fact that I've just said this now means that producer extraordinaire Kelly Doyle is going to want me to catch a fish in Seattle for the Oregonian Oregon Live's Instagram account, which you should be following, if for no other reason than for my new weekly recurring feature, the Oram Forum, presented by no one. Last week we talked about the Portland Diamond Project. This week's topic is TBD, but that'll be coming in hot. Coming in hot very soon. It will not have any fish, or will it?
Or will it? What were you talking about with the Portland Diamond Project last week?
Stuff I'd written about before.
Yeah.
And just the idea that that 2 things can be true, right? My favorite saying is that 2 things can be true. And in this case, you can be skeptical that Portland will actually get a baseball team, while also applauding the ambition of the people who are finally getting an alignment to try to make an actual credible pitch to baseball.
Okay.
And so that is where I ultimately come down on the baseball to Portland issue, that I think Portland still has its work cut out for it. I don't know that baseball is ever going to look at Portland as the best place for expansion, but you want to have your ducks in a row and be ready to strike if they do. And I think that is what has been happening in the city and with city leaders and the Diamond Project and the business community. And now we'll see about the state. But so you can be skeptical while also applauding the ambition.
There you go. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I think, Brenna, that we have actually covered it all. We can certainly revisit this possibility at the top of the Space Needle in Seattle when we're there on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, or Sunday. You know what? I'm gonna have to leave Seattle if the Ducks win on Friday. I'm gonna have to come back on Saturday. Taking our son to Hamilton. So the schedule and the location worked out beautifully for me because anything else would have really screwed up my Hamilton plans. And I was not throwing away my shot to see Hamilton for the first time.
I think that is a perfect way to end this podcast, Bill. I think it's perfect.
For Brenna Greene, I'm Bill Oram. Thank you so much for listening to the Oregonian Sports Podcast. We will be back next week. I am not throwing away my shots.